With a little bit of work, you can transform this average jet into a real performer. Hey there, I'm John, this is Two Brothers RC, and this is the Flyfans Su-27 twin 64mm. Before we go any further, full stop. This is not a stock experience. So if you came here and you were expecting that, I suggest you consider recalibrating your expectations, or just go watch one of the several obviously sponsored videos on YouTube about this plane. This jet was sent to me by my buddy Chuck, the Modfather on Discord, who asked that I show you guys what it can really do. So, cheers, Chuck, thanks so much. We'll review it using our usual metrics, but I'll also disclose the mods that I did and the work required to get it to fly like this. So let's dive into it and see how it stacks up to the no patent pending Two Brothers review system. Before we get into the agility section, let's start by giving you my actual opinion of the Flyfans flanker. I'll be up front, this one's gonna score lower than you might expect. This is due to a few reasons, mostly because the fit and finish is pretty Dynam-like. There's a lot wrong with it, but there's also very few planes that fly this good. With some mods, which I'll explain towards the end of the video, this thing outflies some bigger aircraft that I've demoed on the channel before. The catch is, you gotta do a lot of work to make it fly like this. Out of the box, it's basically nothing more than a subpar jet that can fly in circles. With some mod work, it transforms into an absolute beast of a jet, but you need to keep an eye on the control surfaces, and I'll explain why later on. Diving first into the maneuverability section, the flanker is not prone to accelerated stalls. You can stall it, especially on my setup, but intentional stalls like these sick cobra maneuvers require nothing more than pushing the left stick forward and continuing to fly it again. Put it into a cobra spin and it still doesn't have any problems recovering. I had zero issues throwing it around without it biting me. This is due in large part to carrying a lot less weight on the wing than other similar flankers like the one from FMS, and it earns a pass here. It is very easy to make less nose heavy if you run an appropriately sized battery for a twin 64. That is something in the 4,000 to 5,000 class range. You'll have no issues flying it similar to how I'm flying it here, provided that you actually upgrade the servos like I mentioned later on in the video. The jet can be further customized to be even less nose heavy by adjusting the battery hatch. Again, we'll cover that in the back end of this vid. It passes here too. It takes off very well with no bad tendencies. If you want to shorten the takeoff roll, split the flaperon leads and set the wing type up as a flaperon type. You can take off with flaps and shorten the takeoff roll significantly this way. This also applies to landings too, which are super easy to do, and the jet's relatively light wing load allows it to float in for a landing without overrunning our 300-foot runway. Also, you can do a 0-0 takeoff by hand launching it vertically. The thrust-to-weight ratio is ridiculous, and it's easy to hand toss, even if you toss like someone who can't toss very well. It passes here as well. The twin 64mm outrunner system produces a huge amount of thrust, and it's very efficient too. We'll cover the efficiency in the flight time section coming up. I had zero issues getting it to altitude to throw it around Sukhoi demo style, and I found the thrust to be very good overall. I would prefer in-runners, but I think that the added weight of bigger ESCs wouldn't be a great thing here. It passes too. Stall recovery was super easy. Like I mentioned earlier with the accelerated stall check, it really takes nothing more than throttling up to get out of a stall, and that's due in large part to the light wing load, which I found incredible because the other flanker that I own from FMS does fly great with the mods that I did, but it requires a lot more work to recover from a stall due to the wing load it's carrying. Even if you're flying high alpha and the jet begins to slide laterally because you blanked out the vertical stabilizers with too much angle of attack, you can still throttle right out of it. That's a sign of a very good thrust-to-weight ratio, a good nozzle design, and a very low wing load. That's a pass and a 5 out of 5 here. Moving into the flight time section of this review, the flanker tended to average about 4 minutes and 30 seconds on Hobby King's Bolt HV 4500 packs and on SMC HV2 4000 packs. The longest flight that I managed was 4 minutes and 59 seconds, so close to 5 minutes, but the overall average was in the 4-minute range. Still, that's not bad. There is a twin jet that Flyfans produced recently which struggles to even hit 3 minutes, so this is still above average, and the flanker scores a 4 out of 5 as a result. Moving into the landing gear section, the flanker features, as always, functional wheels. However, they're hard plastic, so they rattle quite a bit and transfer hard landing forces directly to the fuselage. But the wheels are attached to a pretty robust suspension system, so the hard wheels aren't as much of an issue here as they would be if the plane didn't feature a great suspension, so it passes here. The gear didn't require any maintenance that I could see, and it worked flawlessly every time I operated them, which isn't always a given, and it passes here for a final score of 4 out of 5. Before we move on to the fit and finish and avionics sections, consider scrolling down a little and hit that like button for me. If you're not already subscribed, definitely consider it. And if you're not part of our Discord chat server community yet, hop down to the description below, join up, and chat airplanes with us. I promise you, we don't bite, just like this plane. Moving into the fit and finish section now, let's cover what I meant when I said that you need to keep an eye on this jet earlier in the video. I meant that you need to do a visual check of every control surface on this jet to ensure that the ball links don't start backing out of the control horns. Or, as I found out today, the left stabilator plastic buckle started disintegrating on me and wouldn't screw back into the pushrod. I had to use copious amounts of medium CA and some accelerator to get it to grip the pushrod again. Speaking strictly to the metrics though, let's check the paint and whether it's blotchy or damaged out of the box. Thankfully, no, it was pretty good, and it passes here. The foam wasn't bubbly or weird looking either, so it passes there too. Where we start running into issues here is that the entire airframe is foam hinged, but fortunately it does come with full flying stabilators on a metal rod. While yes, it is true that it flies great because of the low wing load, I don't think having some plastic hinge tabs is going to add a noticeable amount of weight to the plane, but it will add longevity to the airframe and require less work to repair later on, so it does fail this checkpoint, unfortunately. The entire airframe is covered in thick stickers of varying reflectance. Some are matte and some are super shiny. There's no consistency here. The only stickers that peeled up were the ones that applied to the servos, which don't really count on our metrics because we're looking for whether the airframe decals peel up, and the jet fails and passes these last two checks and earns a 3 out of 5 as a result. We move on now to the avionics and lighting section, perhaps the most brutal part of this entire review. There was so much slop in the stock stabilator servos that I don't even consider them to pass the metal servo checkpoint. Stab servos are the most critical part of this airframe, and you shouldn't need to replace them in order to avoid this kind of slop. So it fails, even though the other servos were acceptable. The ESCs are a pair of twin 40 amps and they worked without a hitch, with zero overheating in moderately warm weather, even with back-to-back flights. It passes this checkpoint. It doesn't feature a lighting system, failing this checkpoint. The servos cannot be easily replaced. Skip to the mod section if you want to see how much work was involved in splitting the stabilator servos and installing AGFRC B13 DLM units. It fails this checkpoint as well. It does have a great battery tray, though. Unlike the FMS Su-27, I didn't have to carve up the innards of this plane like a Christmas goose to get the battery to sit where the air brake would be. This is the default location. Skip to the mod section if you want to see the minor battery hatch mod that I did to shove the batteries further aft, and it passes here for a final score of 2 out of 5. Overall, the Flyfans Su-27 flanker earns a grand total of 18 out of 25. It's been a while since the radar graph looked this lacking, and that's for good reason. It's not a bad jet, don't get me wrong, because if it was, I wouldn't be having so much fun throwing it around. Look at the score of this jet like I'm calling it a project to work on. because it is. And I wouldn't have this project to work on if not for Chuck the Modfather on Discord, who specifically asked that I put this thing through hell so you guys can see what it's truly capable of. And it really is a diamond in the rough. If you're willing to put up with the work required to make it fly this good, you'll be amazed at what you can do with it. The light wing loading is everything on this jet. Do I wish it was higher quality? Yeah, I do. And the lack of a good set of avionics and finishing makes me wonder if it's worth spending the money on the J20 from Flyfans. The lower end stuff looking lower end is precisely why I don't want to buy balsa airplanes from companies that specialize in lightweight foam, because I don't trust that I'm going to get what I'm paying for if I'm not getting what I paid for already. Get what I mean? That said, this is a fantastic jet with some mod work, so go into it knowing that, or just fly it in circles in the stock setup because it's perfect for that too. Let's cover the mod work required now. Step 1. Take a very sharp hobby knife, like an X-Acto blade, and cut the servos out of the foam. Do this really gently and very slowly. It's not hard to do, but you need to cut all of the glue away from the foam to free them without ripping chunks of the fuselage out. Step 2. Take a wire cutter or scissors of some kind and cut the servo free at the root of the servo's wire, leaving the wiring behind. Strip the wires and tin them with a soldering iron. Step 3. Cut the servo lead off of the AGF-RC B13 DLM servo and solder the servo leads together, then heat shrink them and stuff the wiring back into the fuselage. Step 4. Use foam tack as a base glue layer and glue the B13 DLM servo into the socket that the old servo sat in. Then add a copious layer of 5-minute epoxy and spread it out over the foam to cement it completely in place to avoid having it rip out under aerodynamic loads. You can definitely make it look prettier than I did. I'm on a super tight schedule and I don't have the time that you guys will to make it look awesome. I just needed it to work. Step 5. This is also where you might want to do a better job than I did. Cut a channel in the foam with the blade from earlier to allow the stabilators to have full range of motion. While you're doing that, step 6 is to use thin CA around the stabilator control horns to really get a solid bond of foam to plastic, then cover all of it with a layer of medium CA to make it a super strong bond and spread the aerodynamic forces across the foam. Step 7. If you want to balance this aggressively without adding weight to the tail to get there, then what you need to do is cut away the excess foam from the battery hatch. This allows you to shove a pack further aft, which can gain you another 5 to 10 millimeters in aft balance on the wing, which severely improves how it handles in the air. I actually made a point to do some testing with the gyro disabled just to see how controllable it would be without AS3X Plus helping keep it flying, and while it's certainly touchy...
3, 2, 1, gyro.
No gyro.
It's not impossible to fly, which means that you've got room to go tail heavier. In fact, I could say that you could balance over the main wheels and you'd still be fine. It's an incredible airframe. Step 8. To get the setup that I'm using, just go ahead and hop on Discord via discord.gg/2brosrc and look in the Spectrum Radio Setups channel. Feel free to ask questions if you can't find it. The setup will be pre-made for you so that you don't need to do anything yourself, but if you don't want a pre-made setup, then hop down to the NX Radio tutorial in the description below, which covers how to mix differential stabilators, aka ailerons, and set up flaperons. If anything is unclear, just ask for help on Discord. Let's cover the AS3X Plus gains now. These are throttle-based gains, so if you don't know how to do that, follow the NX tutorial setup guide linked in the description below, which has a chapter covering it for you. I repeat, these are throttle-based gains. Do not use these gains unless you set up a throttle-based gain mix. And there you have it. That's everything that I did to this jet to get it to perform. You'll need some understanding of how to modify stuff, and you can ask for help on Discord if you don't know how to split Y leads for the flaperons and stabilators. It's not that complex, and if it seems like it is, give it time. Trust me, the more that you modify stuff and ask how to modify things, the easier it becomes. I didn't start off knowing what I know immediately either. All it takes is time, practice, and a willingness to learn. I believe in you, you can do this. Huge thanks goes out to our channel members on twobrosrc.com/supporters, and a very special thanks goes out to our mega fans, Sarasota RC Squadron, Michael Smith, JR Man, Todd, and N411X, along with our Ultra fan, TBRC fan. You guys kick so much ass. Coming up soon will be the 1-year look at the Avanti 90mm from FMS with thrust vectoring. Yes, thanks to you channel supporters, we were able to pick up the Freewing Aries 90mm to demo that too. So that's coming up as well, along with a tiered ranking between the FMS Avanti and Freewing Aries. See you guys next week.